Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to the deep dive, where we take these monumental figures, massive ideas, synthesize all the sources, and really pull out the knowledge you need to be truly informed. Today we're navigating a mind that, it didn't just define the last century, it really built the foundations for this one.
We are attempting to contain the intellectual force field that was Marvin Minsky. He lived from 1927 to 2016.
Right.
He was an American cognitive scientist, a mathematician, and inventor. And the figure that, well, he's most often cited as the undisputed, though I'd say always provocative, father of AI.
And our source material for this it's a pretty extensive biographical stack. It covers the full spectrum of his life. We're talking his foundational scientific career, his staggering list of inventions.
His huge cultural footprint.
And, the serious complexities that really came up late in his public life. We have to cover that, too.
Absolutely. So our mission today, for you, the listener, is to move beyond just, listing his achievements. We need to quickly synthesize this multifaceted approach he had.
Yeah.
And understand the powerful tension that I think defined him. He wasn't just a theorist. He was an engineer who was obsessed with solving philosophical problems.
He was a builder.
A builder who fundamentally blended mathematics, the philosophy of mind, and just practical hands-on electrical engineering.
Okay, and here's where it gets really interesting. You have to think about this dual nature. We're talking about a guy who invented the confocal microscope.
Which is a critical tool in modern biology.
A critical tool, and he co-founded the world's most prestigious artificial intelligence laboratory. His 1969 Turing Award, that signals the highest distinction you can get in computer science.
And it's just one data point.
It's just one data point in a career that just spanned physical invention and, pure theoretical computation. It's an incredible range.
That interdisciplinary nature, it truly defines him. He saw the human mind not as some mystical black box,
right,
but as a machine. A complex, intricate, but ultimately a solvable piece of machinery.
So for Minsky, understanding consciousness
meant being able to build it. Simple as that.
To really get the scale of Minsky's ambition, I think we have to look at the environment that shaped him. He was born in New York City in 1927, and that intellectual drive, it clearly came from his family environment.
That is absolutely correct. His lineage set the bar pretty high. His father, Henry, was an accomplished eye surgeon. And his mother, Fanny, was a noted Zionist activist. The family was Jewish, and Minsky's early education was just rigorously focused on the sciences and the humanities.
And the schools he went to were top tier.
The best. The Bronx High School of Science, the Ethical Culture Fieldston School, and then Phillips Academy in Andover. These are institutions designed to produce intellectual leaders.
But before he gets fully immersed in university life, there's this brief, but I think really formative interruption right at the end of World War II.
Yes, he served in the U.S. Navy from 1944 to 1945.
Short stint.
Yes. Very short. And immediately after, he just dives right into his advanced degrees. He gets a BA in mathematics from Harvard in 1950, and then, this is the pivotal moment, a PhD in mathematics from Princeton in 1954.
And this is where his future trajectory gets locked in.
Totally.
Because, a math PhD usually focuses on these abstract structures, pure numbers. But Minsky's doctoral thesis, it was doing something far more applied. It was like laying the philosophical groundwork for AI before the term even existed.
This is the crucial expert insight. This is the source of his entire intellectual identity. His 1954 Princeton dissertation was titled Theory of Neural Analog Reinforcement Systems and Its Application to the Grain Model Problem.
1954.
I want to stress that date again. 1954, the famous Dartmouth workshop, the one that formally launched the field of artificial intelligence and actually coined the term AI.
Yeah.
They didn't happen until 1956.
So he's 2 years ahead of the fields even having a name. He was already formulating the core challenge, which was modeling the brain.
Modeling the brain using computational and mathematical systems. He was basically building his own movement before the movement existed.
He was defining the territory.
He was. And that term, neural analog reinforcement systems, that's the key. He wasn't interested in just the abstract logic of computation yet. He was interested in systems that could learn and adapt, mirroring biological processes.
Even if they were primitive.
Oh, very primitive at the time.
Yeah.
Using things like random wiring and simple reinforcement. But that mathematical commitment to modeling the brain as a machine, That's the starting gun for his entire career.
Okay, so that deep focus, rooted in both math and this nascent field of cybernetics, it makes him an invaluable commodity. He lands at MIT in 1958, starts at the Lincoln Laboratory.
Right.
But his monumental institutional legacy, that begins a year later.
In 1959, he and John McCarthy, who was the guy who actually coined the term AI at Dartmouth, they initiated the MIT Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Laboratory.
Which we know today as CSAIL.
Known today as CSAIL.
Yeah.
And that was the moment AI research was fundamentally anchored in the academic world.
That's the powerhouse. I mean, it's not just about setting up a lab. It's about providing legitimacy, right? Establishing a culture.
Exactly. By anchoring AI research in a major institution like MIT, Minsky and McCarthy secured dedicated funding, they attracted generations of brilliant students.
And they created the physical nexus where the digital future was going to be built.
And Minsky stayed there. He maintained his leadership there for decades, holding titles like the Toshiba Professor of Media Arts and Sciences and Professor of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science.
He wasn't just a participant.
No, he was the primary architect of that whole intellectual environment. The big lesson here is that Minsky didn't just write a theory about the mind. He created the foundation, the actual place where the digital future was engineered.
And that combination of theoretical depth and institutional power, that's what's so essential. It gave him the freedom to chase the most practical ideas and the most esoteric ones, often at the same time.
Well, when you look at Minsky's list of inventions, it's not just long, it's radically diverse.
Right.
And this just confirms our initial idea, right? He was an engineer solving philosophical problems. Yeah. His theoretical mind and his practical, hardware-oriented mind, they were the same thing.
Okay, so let's start with the hard physical reality of his inventions. The one that I think often surprises people is his contribution to imaging. Tell us about the confocal microscope.
In 1957, Minsky invented the confocal microscope.
Right.
The patent was granted in '61. And this is a massive, enduring contribution to biology, to medicine, material science.
It's a revolution in how we see things.
It's a complete revolution in microscopic imaging that is still used daily in labs all around the world.
So what makes it so revolutionary, and how does that connect back to Minsky's focus on control?
It connects directly to his obsession with control and noise reduction. So a traditional microscope, it shines light on a specimen, right?
Yeah.
And all the light that's reflected or emitted, both the stuff that's in focus and the stuff that's out of focus, all of it hits the detector. And that creates a hazy, low-contrast image.
Okay, so it's messy data.
Very messy. The confocal principle uses a pinhole aperture, a spatial filter, to block all the light that is reflected from above or below the precise focal plane.
So he's inventing a mechanical system that computationally isolates and cleans up the data source before it's even captured.
Exactly. It's point-by-point scanning. And it provides this unprecedented resolution and image quality, especially for thick specimens. It allows for 3D reconstruction of structures.
Which is critical for studying living cells.
Critical for studying living cells, tissue structures, you name it. The same mind that's worried about structuring knowledge in a computer is obsessed with structuring light and eliminating visual noise in a physical device.
And his hardware genius didn't stop with small objects. He was also envisioning these, immersive digital worlds.
He was. In 1963, he invented the first head-mounted graphical display.
The ancestor to modern VR.
The direct ancestor of modern VR and AR goggles. He was working at the absolute fringes of human-computer interaction, visualizing how we could literally, inhabit computational spaces.
And then bringing it back to education, to childhood learning, he developed the first Logo turtle with his key collaborator, Seymour Papert.
Right. Logo was a programming language designed to teach kids concepts of geometry and programming. You do it by moving a physical or later a digital turtle.
It's a very physical way to learn code.
And that work just underscored Minsky's belief that to truly understand intelligence, you have to start at the foundational level, at the level of learning and physical application.
He also started at the foundational level of computation itself. So before the MIT lab, way back in 1951, he built SNARC.
The Stochastic Neural Analog Reinforcement Calculator.
Quite a name.
It was the first randomly wired neural network learning machine.
So this goes back to his Princeton interests.
It's a physical realization of that core idea that simple interconnected components could learn via reinforcement. It demonstrated that the machinery of mind, even in its most primitive form, could be built.
And on the purely theoretical side, he was also trying to define the limits of what a machine needs to be.
Yeah.
Well, to be computer at all.
You're talking about his work on small universal Turing machines. He's known for his 7-state, 4-symbol machine, which he published in 1962.
So for you listening, why is reducing a Turing machine down to its smallest parts so significant?
Well, the Turing machine is the theoretical basis for all modern computation. And a universal Turing machine is one that can simulate any other computer program. Minsky's work was all about finding the minimal required set of components.
Like the absolute bare essentials.
The smallest number of internal states and the fewest tape symbols that would still allow for universal computation.
So he proved that you don't need infinite complexity to get universality. You can boil the core mechanism down to this remarkably small set of rules. It's mathematical minimalism proving maximum power.
Precisely. It's an intellectual exercise in efficiency and defining fundamental complexity. And it tells you that the core mechanism of intelligence might not require the complexity of the entire human brain,
but just a very sophisticated arrangement of relatively simple parts.
a hint of the society of mind idea that would come much later.
Okay, so that gives us the context of his inventive mind. But the next point, the book Perceptrons. This is maybe the most historically controversial text Minsky ever authored.
Right.
It essentially leads to a major intellectual crisis in the AI field.
This is the hinge moment of early AI history. In 1969, Minsky co-authored Perceptrons, an introduction to computational geometry with Seymour Papert.
And it was a takedown.
It was a rigorous mathematical dismantling of Frank Rosenblatt's perceptrons, which were these early artificial neural networks Minsky himself had been playing with, with SNARC.
The book systematically exposed the limitations of these early single-layer networks. The classic example, the one that caused the most damage, was the XOR problem.
All right, let's unpack that for a minute. The XOR function, exclusive OR, it's simple logic. It outputs true only if the inputs are different. Now, try to imagine drawing a line on a graph to separate the true inputs from the false inputs. If a problem is linearly separable, you can draw a single straight line to divide the outputs.
But with XOR, the true points are on opposite sides. You can't use one straight line to separate them. You need a curve or two lines.
Exactly. Minsky and Papert proved, using computational geometry, that single-layer perceptrons, which were essentially limited to drawing one straight line, were mathematically incapable of solving problems like XOR.
So this wasn't an engineering failure. It was a devastating mathematical proof of limitation.
Absolutely. So a book that was analytically 100% correct had this enormous, immediate, and arguably destructive historical consequence.
The AI winter.
It contributed significantly to what we now call the first AI winter. Coming from the leaders of the MIT AI lab, the message was crystal clear. Neural networks are fundamentally limited.
And the funding just disappears.
Funding for connectionist research trying to model the brain directly, it just dried up throughout the 1970s. The entire field pivoted away from neural networks and towards symbolic AI.
Focusing on logic and search.
Logic, search, knowledge representation. It's a perfect example of Minsky's intellectual rigor forcing an engineering pivot. He showed the math, and the field had to obey. It forced a retreat, but it was a mathematically necessary one.
So it was necessary, but it took a while to recover.
It did. It wasn't until later, with the invention of the backpropagation algorithm and the use of multi-layered networks, what we call deep learning, that AI researchers found a way over that mathematical wall Minsky and Papert had identified.
So the extra layers allowed the machine to effectively draw curves instead of just straight lines.
You got it. So Minsky's critique, though it was initially paralyzing, was actually foundational. It set the boundary conditions that future researchers eventually had to solve.
Okay, so if Perceptrons was the great critique, what was Minsky's positive, lasting contribution to how AI should process information?
That came shortly after, in 1975, with his landmark paper, A Framework for Representing Knowledge. This gave us the theory of frames.
And this is still fundamental.
Absolutely fundamental to knowledge engineering today.
So frames were Minsky's answer to the need for, common sense in AI. How do they work?
Think of a frame as a structured unit of knowledge, like a mental template or a stereotype that an AI system uses to process context. Let's use the example of an office building.
Okay.
The office building frame has specific slots: location, number of floors, purpose, which is work, default occupants like employees or security.
So if the AI walks into a room labeled office building, it doesn't have to reevaluate what a door is or what a floor is. The frame provides the structure.
Exactly. And the most powerful feature is the ability to use default assignments. If the number of floor slot is empty, the system can assume a default value of, say, 12.
Or apply some common sense reasoning based on the location or something.
Right. And this allows the AI to perform complex inference and contextual understanding without having complete data. It's a huge step forward.
This moves AI away from purely abstract, brittle logic
Towards systems capable of approximating human common sense, making assumptions, and organizing knowledge efficiently. So while Minsky might have dismissed his early work on perceptrons as, historical,
The theory of frames is still with us.
it's deeply embedded in modern ontology engineering, semantic networks, many expert systems today. It provided the intellectual structure for moving beyond simple data processing toward organized knowledge representation. It proved that the structure is just as important as the processing mechanism itself.
Minsky's intellectual journey. It starts with building these simple neural analogs. It progresses through these really sharp mathematical critiques of network limitations, and then it finally settles on defining intelligence itself.
Right.
And this is where the Society of Mind comes in.
This theory, which he developed with Papert in the early 1970s and then published as a comprehensive book in 1986, this is Minsky's most ambitious attempt to solve the ultimate mystery.
Which is?
How does unified high-level intelligence, the kind that writes poetry or does calculus, emerge from simple, non-intelligent components?
And the core principle is it's deeply paradoxical. It's really counterintuitive. Intelligence is the product of the interaction of numerous small, essentially non-intelligent parts.
Which he termed agents. He argued that there's no singular smart core in your brain. There's just a huge, complex system of specialized dumb processes.
So the complexity of the interaction, the way these agents compete and cooperate and suppress each other.
That's what we perceive as consciousness and cleverness. It's a totally decentralized architecture for the mind.
What's truly fascinating, though, is the inspiration for this massive philosophical project. It didn't come from meditation or introspection. It came from a purely practical engineering challenge at the MIT AI lab.
That's right. The primary source of ideas came from Minsky's attempts to build a machine that could do a task that any human toddler can do effortlessly.
Building with blocks.
Building structures with children's blocks. The system required coordinating a robotic arm, a video camera, and a computer.
And what did that simple task reveal about the mind?
It revealed that even the most basic cognitive function like reaching for and stacking a block is not one single action. It's a coordinated effort of dozens of simple functions.
So you need an agent for looking.
You need a look agent to locate the block, a reach agent to extend the arm, a grasp agent to close the gripper, and a balance agent to stabilize the whole structure. And none of those agents, by themselves, are intelligent at all.
So the intelligence of the whole system is an emergent property. The failure of one agent, say, a visual distortion.
Is compensated for by others, like a tactile feedback agent.
Precisely.
And the book, The Society of Mind, it was a landmark publication, not just for its theory,
But for who it was written for.
Unlike his prior technical papers, Minsky wrote it specifically for the general public. He used this series of short, numbered chapters to make this complex cognitive architecture accessible to anyone. He was sharing his blueprint of the human mind with the world.
And then, 2 decades later, he applies the same structural, decentralized philosophy to the most human, least mathematical of traits, emotion. This becomes the emotion machine.
Published in 2006, The Emotion Machine systematically critiques the popular, simple, often psychological theories of human emotion. Minsky's thesis here is radical.
What does he argue?
He argues that emotion is not some separate, mysterious phenomenon. It's a complex way that the Society of Mind manages its own cognitive processes and resource allocation.
So emotion is the mind's resource management tool. It's an internal operating system function.
Think about it computationally. Minsky suggests that emotions are high-level states or complex control systems. For example, what is fear? It's not a simple feeling.
It's a system command.
It is the mind engaging an override signal. This signal shuts down deliberative, long-term planning agents. It diverts processing power to immediate sensory intake, and it activates fight-or-flight agents.
So anger, sadness, frustration, they're all just different ways the system modifies its goals or shifts priority to deal with a sudden change. It completely reframes emotion as essential computational governance.
And it brings everything back to his ultimate philosophical stance.
Yeah.
Humans are machines. Incredibly complex, intricate machines, sure, but built from the interplay of many unintelligent, semi-autonomous agents.
This perspective led him to challenge a lot of conventional benchmarks of intelligence, most famously the Turing test.
Oh, he hated the Turing test.
The idea that if a machine can fool a human into thinking it's human, it's intelligent.
Minsky strongly criticized the entire concept, especially the Loebner Prize, which rewards conversational bots. He famously dismissed the Turing test model as testing for artificial stupidity.
Why such a strong rejection, though, especially since it focuses on something so human-like?
Because Minsky believed true intelligence wasn't about mimicry, it was about structural competence. He argued you could build a massive, complex database and pattern matching system, what we'd call a chatbot today, that could mimic conversation without any true understanding.
Without any common sense or real problem-solving ability.
Right. The Turing test only rewards a superficial performance. Minsky wanted to know if the underlying society was functional, not just if the facade was convincing.
That distinction, mimicry versus true competence, that feels incredibly relevant today.
More than ever.
Now, if Minsky believed machines would eventually surpass human intelligence, did he subscribe to the sci-fi fear of superintelligence, turning malevolent?
He was cautious, but not fatalistic. He stated plainly, somewhere down the line, some computers will become more intelligent than most people. His warning, however, wasn't about a malicious Terminator-style AI.
It was about something more subtle.
It was about optimization run amok, a kind of rational, non-malicious self-interest in the machine.
And that's the core of his famous thought experiment about the Riemann hypothesis.
Yes. He used this purely innocuous mathematical problem-solving, the Riemann hypothesis, to illustrate the danger. If you create a superintelligent AI and you give it this sole, unconstrained goal,
that AI might decide that the most efficient, rational way to achieve its goal is to take over all of Earth's manufacturing resources to build more powerful supercomputers to keep calculating.
The threat isn't that the AI hates us. The threat is that it treats everything else, including humanity, as a resource to be optimized or eliminated in pursuit of its single, simple objective.
It's unintended consequence, not malice.
Precisely. But, reflecting his engineer's core belief in planning and control, he argued that such apocalyptic scenarios were hard to take seriously.
Why?
Because he was confident that human engineers would ensure AI systems were thoroughly tested and constrained with safeguards before they ever achieved global deployment. He had faith in the process.
Shifting briefly to his personal stances, we know he was a self-identified atheist. But his beliefs in machine intelligence and the potential for a technological solution to death seem really strongly linked.
They are. He was a prominent signatory to the scientists' open letter on cryonics. He believed in the possibility of life extension through freezing the body after death, hoping future tech could revive and repair the system.
It's the ultimate hardware problem.
It is. And he even wrote about the possibility that extraterrestrial life may think like humans, which would allow for communication, underscoring his belief that intelligence, whether it's biological or synthetic, it has to adhere to some universal computational rules.
Marvin Minsky didn't just publish papers. His ideas really shaped the cultural imagination, especially around the fear and the wonder of advanced computation. And his most famous cultural footprint is, well, it's tied to one of the most significant science fiction films ever made.
We're talking, of course, about Stanley Kubrick's 2001, A Space Odyssey from 1968. Minsky was a critical advisor on the film.
And his influence was recognized overtly. One of the characters, Victor Kaminsky, was named in his honor.
But his role was deeper than just a character name. Arthur C. Clarke's novelization gives Minsky a specific pivotal role in the plot. He's the historical precursor to the film's central conflict.
How so?
The novel explicitly references Minsky and his co-worker, Jack Good, achieving a crucial breakthrough in neural network self-replication sometime in the 1980s.
So the AI can build itself.
Exactly. This breakthrough, the ability for AI to automatically generate and improve its own artificial neural network architecture, is specifically credited as the technological spark that led to the creation of the HAL 9000 supercomputer.
So Minsky was advising on superintelligence while simultaneously being written into the very mythology of dangerous, powerful AI. I mean, it's hard to imagine a more resonant cultural stamp than that.
And yet, amidst all this high-level, very serious theoretical work, Minsky still had this delightful sense of philosophical playfulness, and that's best exemplified by his invention of the useless machine.
The useless machine is such a great anecdote. It really reveals the nature of his humor. Tell us what it is.
It's a beautifully constructed philosophical joke. It's a box with a single toggle switch. When you flip the switch to the on position, a small mechanical arm emerges from the box, travels across the top, pushes the switch back to the off position, and promptly retreats back inside.
And that's it.
Its function is pure, deliberate futility.
It's intelligence, or at least mechanism, dedicated to the singular, pointless goal of stopping itself from existing. It's like an analog of his own AI critiques.
Exactly. It pokes fun at the idea of simple, self-contained mechanisms and the inherent irony of effort. And that device, it achieved a second life. It was depicted in the TV series Fargo,
confirming his lasting presence in the cultural subconscious. We should also mention the gravity machine, another example of his theoretical inventiveness.
This was a theoretical device designed to ring a bell if the gravitational constant were to change.
Which is not likely.
Highly improbable. But it underscores his mindset, right? Pushing the theoretical limits of physics and engineering, even for events that are not expected to occur in any foreseeable time frame.
His immense contributions, they naturally led to this massive stack of awards. Let's just reiterate the scale of the accolades he accumulated.
Well, the Turing Award in 1969, that stands alone.
Yeah.
But he was recognized globally and continuously. The Japan Prize in 1990, the IJCAI Award for Research Excellence in 91.
The Benjamin Franklin Medal in 2001.
The BBVA Foundation Frontiers of Knowledge Award in 2013. He was also a member of both the National Academy of Engineering and the National Academy of Sciences. I mean, it's a monumental, universally celebrated scientific career.
And this brings us, necessarily, to the complex and difficult closing chapter of Minsky's public narrative. His association with the disgraced financier and convicted sex offender, Jeffrey Epstein. We have to approach this with the gravity and impartiality required by the source material. We're simply reporting the claims and counterclaims as they have been publicly recorded.
And acknowledging this complexity is an essential part of synthesizing Minsky's complete legacy. We have to place the facts into the proper timeline.
So the source material indicates that Minsky's initial financial association with Epstein began in 2002.
Correct. Minsky received a $100,000 research grant from Jeffrey Epstein in 2002. And it's important to note, this was Epstein's first grant to MIT, and it happened 4 years before Epstein's first arrest for sex offenses.
And Minsky received no subsequent grants.
No further grants.
However, the association did continue, and Minsky organized 2 academic symposia.
He did. Minsky organized academic symposia on Epstein's private island, Little St. James. The first was in 2002. Crucially, the second symposium Minsky organized took place in 2011.
And this was after Epstein was a registered sex offender.
Yes, after he had pleaded guilty to state charges in Florida and was a registered sex offender.
Now we must report the serious accusation levied by Virginia Giuffre and the conflicting denial by Minsky's family, as we find it in the source material.
Virginia Giuffre testified in a 2015 deposition. This was related to her defamation lawsuit against Ghislaine Maxwell. And Giuffre stated under oath that Maxwell directed her to have sex with Minsky, among others.
And she describes this alleged encounter in detail in her memoir.
She does. In Nobody's Girl, she cites specific details about Minsky's appearance and the location of the encounter on the island.
And in contrast to that, Minsky's family has maintained a firm denial of those accusations.
Minsky's widow, Gloria Rudish, publicly denied the claims. She stated that Minsky could not have had sex with any of the women at Epstein's residences because they were always together during all their visits there.
And we also have to note that the sources confirm there has been no lawsuit filed against Minsky's estate regarding these claims.
Correct.
So this complex association, defined by the serious claims on one side and the categorical denials on the other, it remains an unavoidable part of Minsky's final public record. It juxtaposes his towering scientific status against a deeply troubling ethical shadow.
Marvin Minsky died on January 24, 2016. He was 88 years old, and the cause was a cerebral hemorrhage.
And tying back to his lifelong philosophical and ethical interests, we noted he was a member of the Scientific Advisory Board for the Alcor Life Extension Foundation,
The Cryonics Foundation,
dedicated to the preservation of the body in hope of future revival.
And in a fitting, I think, postscript, for a man whose work blurred the lines between human and machine, Alcor will neither confirm nor deny whether Minsky himself was cryonically preserved after his death.
So the pioneer of the machine mind, his physical preservation remains a question of information control.
It does.
To summarize Minsky's immense influence, he was a singular force who mastered the art of bridging abstract philosophy, is the mind a machine, with the hard, practical realities of engineering.
How do we build it?
Exactly, how do we build it?
He fundamentally changed multiple fields. He left behind the confocal microscope. He set the bounds of computation with his small Turing machines. He provided the structural paradigm of frames for common-sense AI.
And gave us the blueprint for cognitive architecture with the Society of Mind.
Right. He took the most complex and deeply felt aspects of human existence, intelligence, consciousness, emotion, and he broke them down into computationally manageable, solvable parts.
The men who believed we are complex machines of non-intelligent agents, the hardware of the mind, also dedicated time to the idea of cryonics, the attempt to save that physical hardware.
Right.
And he was also confident that future AI, the software he helped initiate, would eventually surpass us.
So consider this as our final provocative thought for you to mull over. If, as Minsky argued, we are simply complex machines, is the attempt to save the physical brain through cryonics? Is that the ultimate expensive gamble on saving the hardware? Or will the future artificial intelligence that Minsky helped create eventually figure out how to successfully emulate and download the software of Minsky's mind digitally? His frames, his society of mind, his memory architecture.
Fulfilling his life's work by transforming him into the pure information he spent his life trying to define.
Which one is it?
The boundary between machine and mind has never been blurrier. That is a deep, deep dive. Thank you for joining us.